Evening everybody. We've got a bit of a festive one here, at least in part, for now. This is my take on an original design by Ralph Laughton and his galloper, intended for fairly simple steam driven kits where you build your model, fairground ride, galloper, drive it by a steam engine. His design used different parts. I'm not overly keen on bending strips too much, so I used parts that enabled me to build it without doing the bending, and also done my own little thing here and there for my own circumstances. Like for example, I haven't got long enough axles, so I've had to join them with rod connectors and that sort of thing, and the odd colour variations in the spaces because I haven't got enough to do it all in, say, just two different colours. And the idea is, one, I'm looking at it more from the fairground bright colours side, and also Christmas, because Ralph's were horses. Now I've made them into some sort of reindeer, and just by adding a few parts really, so quite festive. And once Christmas is out the way, I shall put something else on. So I'm thinking small vehicles, and then this will be called the M25 because it goes round and round. So folks, let's get it whirling for you. Initially it was far too fast, but there you go. I will steam it one day. I just ain't got the time this week to do it. This is going to be by a Christmas tree, so will be battery powered, of course, in this way. So initially then, you get these two pulleys for your drive. Your steam engine would connect to this pulley on the outside. You don't have to put the handle if you don't want to. I slightly changed that one where I've put plastic spacers on so it will pivot nicely in the hand. We don't really need that. The overall model, the chassis, apart from trunnions and these flange plates, and all the gubbins to add the electric motor, that's pretty much as Ralph designed it. There has been a slight alterations here and there. For example, we've got a triaxle here because it was to hand on the table, and I've used the small rubber grommets and washers here and there as well, which Ralph would have used the spring clips. Well, I got thousands of these things, so I thought, well, they ain't going to do a lot, so I'll make use of those. Got no brass, no boss pulleys, so I've had to use plastic, and once I put a bit of furniture polish on them, because they squeak like, oh, they did squeak, I tell you. It was a squeal. Put a bit of furniture polish on, sound. Well, or rather, no sound. A drop of oil here and there, where there's metal on metal, so basically the pivot points for the pulleys, and underneath there. I'll include some photos at the end, a bit more close up. Not totally all of it, but most of the build, or progress I should say. I made a lot of alterations as I went, and then okay, it wasn't a full freestyle model, obviously going off for, I don't know, 90%, 95% of it going off for Ralph's design. Playing around with different spaces, the cross section, if you like, the cross pieces at the top, the two 5.5 inch strips at the ends, I'll just stop it. You'll see they're a little bit raised. That's just to make sure they're level, or as level as possible. Where they come into contact with the bush wheel and the boss, where it's fixed to the bush wheel, is slightly raised, so use washers to get around that. I think this circular ring, whatever the proper name is, I can't remember, I think that's from a #1 clock set. That's a repaint as well. I've got that in a job lot as well from somewhere. Not used it, and I think I've actually got another one of those, but in some ways I wanted to leave the top open a little bit to let the light in, so any light from, say, a Christmas tree, which would be obviously low power LEDs these days, will nicely flicker on it, and like a glitter ball effect or something like that. So we got the 4 reindeer, including Rudolph. There he is, there, just there. I'll just bring it round again. Come here. Where are you? There we are. Goes backwards as well, as you can see quite well. There's Rudolph. All in the initial build 3 hours, but we're fiddling around different spaces, trying to do things differently. The axles holding, in my case, the reindeer, I changed those, or elaborated on those if you like, for 2 reasons. One, it was really fast with its drive as it was just off the motor here, with a 12:1 ratio. Initially using one of the small black rubber grommets as the drive. I'll give you a close-up of this in a bit. I think I may have 1/2 inch pulley, but I wanted quite a low reduction, so I tried the rubber grommet and it worked fine, but too fast, really too fast. They started to turn out even with this setup, so before. So because the batteries are new, what I've done now is a trick that, I say trick, most of the time it didn't work. In the late 70s sets certainly, Meccano decided to have models where you drive directly off the drive shaft of the motor to a pulley, and most of the time there's nothing to hold the drive band in place. I've done that. 2 reasons. I've left the first of all the black rubber grommet cum pulley on the shaft inside there, because that will be used later on when the batteries go a bit low, and I put a little rubber grommet on the outer to keep it all in place so it doesn't fly off. We're using modern drive bands. If I'm being honest, this one here on the to the pulley, the main pulley there, drive pulley, that's a tad tight. It all works okay. I've used plastic spacers, different colours just to get the colours. Washers here and there, but with just the small rubber grommets holding these in place, I would say even at this slowish speed, they would have started to move around. So I thought, how can I get around that? Now, the easiest way, if I had screwed rods long enough to do the lot, that would have been the easiest way, but I haven't. So I thought, well, first thought was, if I put compression springs on, as you can see, got compression springs on each axle, bottom and about 2/3 the way up, 3/4 the way up, something like that, just there. And we've still got the rubber grommets, and I initially thought if I put the compression springs on all the way down, it would replicate the twists on the bars of the real sort of ride of these things. But they are, I suppose it's stainless steel wire. They don't stand out much. So I scrapped that idea. To some extent, the model was changed from my original thought purely because I hadn't got certain parts that I wanted. And for an example, take the small spacers on the axles to hold the reindeer. You know, it would have been nice to do, say, silver and red, or green and red, or something like that. One, I've got no green at all, I don't think, in the small ones, but I just hadn't got enough of most of the colours. The orange I had, but I wanted to make it different. It doesn't really stand out enough for me liking, but, you know, I've got a fair few of the odd colour, but not to do anything too elaborate, or just with 1 or 2 colours. So it's a bit of a bit dull perhaps. But still kept the grommets here, and the pattern should be the same all the way around. So we've got, starting right at the bottom here, we've got 2 small rubber grommets now. Then we've got 1 inside, followed by a compression spring. Then we've got the spacers up to this small grommet, and after that another grommet, more spacers up to a compression spring. The washer's there to stop the rod connector slipping inside the spring, and then you can't see up there, but there's another 2 little rubber grommets and 2 black spacers to take up the slack, then followed by the larger spacers and then another rubber grommet, and that's the same for each one. I'll show you it all in close-up later on, but the action of the 2 springs acting against each other, and having in some cases 2 rubber grommets, keeps it all nicely taut. You can move these, but it's just about enough to hold it in place. You could go a little faster and it would be probably okay, but not too much faster. Because of that, as I had to add the extra reduction gears, because it was really fast even on 3 volt, So let's have a look at that. Now folks, it's a bit awkward getting in to see all this, but we should be alright. Currently it's set up to drive initially off the drive shaft of the motor directly. That is the smallest possible pulley, for want of a better phrase at the moment, not really a pulley of course, to the next pulley, which is a 2-inch. Now roughly, and it will be roughly, that is about 16:1. The next one, driving off one of the black rubber grommet pulleys, which is sort of back 1/4 inch, that's giving me 12:1. So we've got a 28:1 reduction, which is about right, I reckon, off 3 volts. Of course, with a steam engine with a variable first of all pressure, but if you've got control on the steam engine as well, either by a regulator or in the case of some of the mods, so we'll use the proper name, MAMODs to most people of course, then you will be able to use it by altering the position of the cylinder slightly. And I should think a MAMOD traction engine, just running on tick over really, or just a bit high, will be perfect for this. So that is as it is at the moment, and it's okay. It's fine, perfect really. But when the batteries do go a little bit, I will be then exchanging, or rather changing, onto the black rubber grommet on the motor itself. As I said before, it's held in position, the band, by the black rubber grommet and a small one as well on the outer. It works very well. So, just to show you that, working very well. There you go. Just a spot of oil. I used gun oil, which is very like 3-in-1, but it's a smidgen thicker, a little bit better quality. Just a spot that side and that side, because you've got a bit of plastic as well. So generally, if I've got plastic on metal, like with the 1/2 inch pulleys here, I use furniture polish. I don't spray it on because it gets everywhere. I did try it today actually, it got everywhere, so just put a bit on a rag and dab it on and then wipe the excess off. And this has been going for quite a bit this afternoon, and it was squealing somewhat rotten, but with the furniture polish on those pulleys it's fine, and it goes around very nicely indeed. It'd be nice if we could put some lights on it, LED lights, but I think that'd be too many and too bulky in the form of the battery box. But as you can see there, quite silent. The only thing you can really hear is the motor, and it runs quite well. Better than quite well, it runs excellently. So very nice design there, Ralph. Quite simple. Looking at the base now, and it wouldn't be too hard to make it so that the reindeer or horses or cars or whatever you want to put on the ride go up and down, just using a ramp. Of course you'd have to get rid of all the spacers and have some play on the axles, but that wouldn't be too hard to do at all. A couple of ramps and so they go up and down, up and down, up and down. Be quite nice. So there you are folks, my take, festive one, on Ralph Laughton's Galloper. And thanks Ralph, it's a nice model, very inspiring. Should have made it a couple of years ago really, but there we are, got around to it in the end. So if Ralph doesn't mind, I'll find out, and if he doesn't, I'll put the link to his download in the description. So there you are folks. Now I'm not sure whether I'm going to get any more videos in before Christmas or New Year, so as it is that time of year, have a happy Christmas and a very happy New Year. And if you do get some Meccano-y things, not just Meccano construction sets, but anything Meccano products, let us know on the meccanozone.com forum or Facebook page. Bye for now folks.